Welcome to How We Got There. My name's Mike Davis, and I interview experts in the Salesforce ecosystem. These can be founders to individual contributors to ultimately help the next batch of Salesforce ISVs find success in the ecosystem. My goal in every episode is to show you one thing to try and at least one mistake to avoid as you conduct this journey in the ecosystem to ultimately gain more customers and gain more visibility. This episode is brought to you by Invisory. Invisory is ready to help you take a fresh and modern approach to your cloud marketplace success through a strong go-to-market strategy that helps drive prospect and co-sell opportunities with Salesforce, AWS, Microsoft, and Google. Visit invisory.co, that's INVISORY.co, to take your marketplace listing to the next level. Well, I am so happy that my first episode back, I'm joined with Sam Yarborough, and she and I met years and years ago, and I was impressed with her right away. She just gets the ecosystem. She was at the time SVP of partnerships at PFL. Since then, she went over to Invisory to run the Salesforce business as Chief Growth Officer over there, and is also the co-founder of Arcadia and an amazing human being. And my first time second round guest. So welcome back to the pod, Sam.
Wow. Mike Davis, can I just say, so honored on so many levels because A, we've missed you so much. But to be back on the podcast, to see your face again, it's just the best. So very excited for today.
Awesome. Well, hey, for the folks that haven't gotten to know you from the last episode, first you should. But tell us a little bit about how you found your way into the Salesforce ecosystem, and then blend that into how you got to Invisory and how you and your co-founder thought of Arcadia.
Okay, so there's a lot to uncover there, and I'll try to keep it short because I know we did dive into that a lot in a previous episode, but you're also a huge part of that story as well. So I fell into the Salesforce ecosystem kind of by accident, actually. I took over the partnership program at an ISV called PFL. We were a marketing cloud partner, and did direct mail in the ecosystem. And when I took over the partnership program, we had but we had way too many partners and none were really producing anything. And so we looked at past data, and Salesforce was the partner that was producing the most, but it was very reactive. We didn't have a proactive plan to go after them. So, I took a hunch and I said, well, there's the most coming from that one. So let's lean in and see what can happen. And we really did lean in. We found a ton of success in the ecosystem by just committing, building those one-to-one relationships with Salesforce sellers, RVPs, et cetera. And by the time I left PFL, 65% of our revenue was sourced through Salesforce. So I saw the power of it. I fell in love with the ecosystem. And then I met you. So, you were at Invisory at the time, and you asked me to come over, and it was a really fun opportunity because what we do at Invisory is we help ISV partners excel in the ecosystem. So myself, along with my phenomenal team, we all have a really wide variety of experience in the ecosystem. And that's really helpful because there's not a one size fits all. And we help ISVs with their go-to-market holistically within the ecosystem. And so that's from building those relationships with sellers, SEs, et cetera, to building SIs, to having better marketing motions, all of the above. And it's been a really fun, I've been here 18 months, really fun experience because we've seen it all. Every partner has a different story, and it's been really fun. So.
Wow. 18 months. I can't believe it's been 18 months. That's amazing. And yeah, just if you could share a little bit about Arcadia as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So little side project that my husband and I have. My husband's also in partnerships. So he works more on tech ISV side, not so much major ecosystem, although that is changing, but it's really fun. And we have found just a really awesome group of people in this network that we've built. And so Arcadia is started as an event. We have another one coming up here in July in Montana, but really we want to invest in the leaders that are building these programs from a go-to-market perspective. And so whether it's partnerships, revenue, marketing, we are firm believers that partnerships cannot exist in a silo. So we want to have more people at the table having those conversations. And then holistically, Arcadia means harmony. And so if you're not building harmony from a partnership perspective in your organization, then you're failing. But even deeper, if you're not building harmony with yourself, you can't be the best leader you can be. And so it's kind of multifaceted, and happy to answer any more questions about that. But
yeah, and I'm assuming, as the kids say, that due to the harmony, both professional and personal, you'll be getting out and touching grass during the conference.
Well, to say the least, it is only outside and everybody stays in glamping tents. So absolutely, there will be grass involved. There will also be cold plunges in the river, fly fishing, yoga, hiking. It's very immersive, and that's on purpose to get people out of their day-to-day experience, because you can't truly connect with people in a conference room. That's not where real relationships are built. They're built with having intentional conversation, learning together and getting out of your comfort zone. So.
Oh, but I love meeting people in that carpeted room with those like faux nice chandeliers and those walls that you can move.
It's the ambiance is just, it's next level.
It's inspiring. Let's switch gears and talk about Salesforce ISVs. And because Invisory sees so many of them, all shapes and sizes, startups, all the way up to publicly traded SaaS businesses, what's one thing that every project that Invisory completes with a Salesforce ISV, what's one thing that you always work on with them?
So I have to give credit to our dear friend Sienna Quirk, because she created this. But our messaging exercise is something that is so invaluable to ISVs. And why that is because if you can't clearly articulate the value of your ISV to the Salesforce sellers and ultimately the customer, then this is all for naught. And the message that you bring to the Salesforce ecosystem is different than the one that's on your website. Sure, there are components that like overlap and whatnot, but really being able to articulate how and why a Salesforce AE should care about you, and a Salesforce SE and an SI and an RVP, like understanding the different personas and how you message your value to them is foundational. And so we do that with every single ISV, and it's one of the most important things we do.
Love that. And yeah, when you talk about like SIs versus Salesforce versus their website, I immediately start thinking about like composite apps, right? Like apps that also have robust customers outside of the Salesforce platform, because I think there'd be a little bit more overlap with native apps from their messaging, but maybe not. Maybe everybody can get value from that.
That's a good point. And I wouldn't disagree, but I still think the premise of marketing is like, what's the personalization and value to each? So like a Salesforce AE, they're going to care about the P&R back to them. They're going to care about stickiness in the platform and what the end value to their customer is. And you have to articulate that in 25 seconds so you can get their attention and they know how to sell you. Versus an SE, they don't care about P&R. They want to know, how easy is this to implement and what pain points does this solve for my end user? So the nuances are there, and you just have to really understand how to articulate those very quickly, because I don't even know the number now, but it generally is around 5,000 apps, and they're all trying to talk to these, sellers and SEs. So if you can't be clear and quick, forget it.
Totally. What are you most proud of from your time in the ecosystem?
That's a tough question because, the time in the ecosystem has been pretty vast. I will say something that was surprising to me coming over to Invisory is while there are red threads to every program, there is no one size fits all for a partner. And you just kind of mentioned this. We work with a really wide variety, like, two guys who are just launching on the App Exchange and they're it. Like, this is their baby. And then Fortune 500 publicly traded companies. And, when I first started, I was like, these big companies, I have nothing to offer them. They've got it figured out. Like, they're dialed. And I was so wrong. Meanwhile, the two founders in the garage, yes, I have a lot to offer them, but I'm also learning a ton from them as well in the way that they're thinking about business and they can be super agile. So what am I most proud of? I think it's the ability to just kind of be a chameleon and learn from these people while still being adaptive and helping people find the best strategy to move forward. Because yes, there are red threads, but there are nuances to every program.
I love that. And what's your biggest mistake you made along the way?
Let's see. Probably. Oh, I have a good one. I didn't even think about this before the episode, but back when I ran the program at PFL, convincing my team to build a health cloud integration because Salesforce told me to, and I was like blindly following. So, I think one thing I learned from that a lot is Salesforce is a business, obviously, and they're going to do what's in their best interest. But as a partner leader, you are responsible for doing what's in your best interest for your business. And those two things, while often are parallel, sometimes maybe are on different timelines or don't intersect as much as they maybe should. So I didn't do enough research on TAM, who was already on Health Cloud. I just kind of followed blindly and was like, Salesforce says it's the next big thing. And we built it and no one came. So that was a learning curve.
Well, and I think this is a good lesson for the partnership and alliance people in charge of the partnership, because I don't know, I'm thinking about Tommy Boy when he's like and excited and he's getting like really jacked up because he just had a good conversation with his partner account manager about Health Cloud. Or what was the one with COVID? Work.com. That's when I was at TaskRay, I had a miss where I got all jacked up about building a work.com app to help us reopen offices and get back to work. We sold exactly $0 of. And you lose a lot of face inside of your organization. So I think it's a good reminder to folks like what the Venn diagram, like sometimes there's a good chunk that overlaps about what's good for Salesforce and what's good for a partner. And that's where you should like focus on and do TAM SAMs and really dig in. But like oftentimes they could be really stoked about something totally unrelated and like don't shoehorn the thing in. Like they can take risks because they're billions of revenue, but you guys can't take risks as much as they can.
Totally. And you saying that out loud is so funny because I often talk to ISVs and they're so excited. They are that Tommy Boy example because they got a meeting with an RVP and it's like, okay, great. Well, now what are the next steps? Like that one exciting conversation is not going to change your business. What you do after and how you follow up and all of that is what's actually going to move the needle. And I think that kind of ethos can be taken across. Does it make sense to build an integration? Does it make sense? And I didn't do that with Health Cloud. So there's my mistake.
Nice. No, that's super helpful too. And it's when you were talking there too, it's also like having multiple conversations. It's like, okay, cool. That one's good. I'm actually going to go out and work to disprove this thesis before I bring it into my own internal team. And so if one RVP is stoked about it, I'm going to find 5 of her or his peers and have the same conversation and see if the same level of stoke exists. And if it doesn't, then you stop. But if it does, then you continue with more analysis. And so it's just like the reminder, I don't know, what do they have? 30,000, 40,000 employees? Like not everybody is going to be working on the same thing. Not everybody is working on the sure revenue thing, the cash cow for them, because like you as an ISV actually probably don't want to be on the bleeding edge. Like you want to be on their well entrenched business because those apps are going to be looking for phase or those customers that have built their business processes already on that Salesforce platform. You want to be able to plug in to phase 2 and phase 3 of an already successful platform. So Salesforce
Amen.
is out on the bleeding edge and you're like, no, I want to be where you've already been so I can just like plug in.
Exactly to your point about risk. You're spot on.
Love it. One of the reasons I knew that I wanted to work with you, Sam, was when we co-presented in New York at a world tour. Another one's coming up here. This will probably get out in time for that. But you showed me the concept of treating Salesforce AEs like a customer. So from an ISV's point of view, like you have your customers, which is an account in Salesforce. You have contacts and leads. Those are individuals at those customers. Sam introduced me to this concept of like treating AEs, SEs, RVPs with that same funnel concept in CRM. And it blew my mind when I first heard about it. It's a lot of work. How do folks get started? How do you crawl, walk, run there? And why is it important?
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people, they have the idea that they want to partner with Salesforce or whatever, insert large ecosystem here. And they are then like, all right, here I go. I'm going to, partner with the logo. And I think what a lot of people forget is that where business is done is on the individual level. And so really thinking about my latest and greatest, Jason and I talk about this all the time, but the partner experience. We talk about customer experience all the time and sales experience. And, partner experience is not really one that's thought about a lot. There certainly are people that are doing it well, but no one's going to do business with you if you haven't invested with them, proven truth or trust, and show up consistently. And so that's what it takes to be successful in these ecosystems and building those one-to-one relationships with the AEs, the RVPs, the SEs. And that's how you're going to kind of start to build that flywheel. So, you asked about tracking in CRM. Every other practice in your go-to-market motion uses the CRM to track their leads, to track their contacts, to track MQLs, SQLs. Why isn't your partner org doing that as well? Like you should be looking at, okay, this is my target list of Salesforce AEs based on the accounts they own. Here's where they're at in my funnel. Here's how often I followed up with them. Here's if they're a warm lead, cold lead, disqualified, etc. So that you have like a good roadmap on how to run your program. Because otherwise, you're just looking in your notebook, trying to stay on top of things, and you're going to get lost immediately.
Well, and I think it's a good parallel to think about like, let's take the sales funnel. Like that's the most like common funnel that people have. That's kind of like version 1 of CRM. It includes a funnel. And like it's a way to forecast and it's a way to show like how mature your deals are. And you can take the same concept, but apply it to partnerships. Like, are they aware or unaware? Like, have you met with them in person? Are they like bringing you into deals? Like there's a funnel, and just like sales funnels, like you talk to a bunch of different people. There's Medic, MedPick. There's like every type of sales methodology, and there's no like one peanut butter spread. So like, I don't think you have to look for like the best partner journey either. Just like think of ones that have been successful, whiteboard it, and then iterate.
Totally. Well, and to your point about like the RVP calls that we talked about earlier. So like I think one way to frame this is marketing has webinars all the time. Everybody that attends a webinar then is put into some sort of nurture campaign or becomes a lead, like whatever that is. Okay. You have an RVP meeting and there are 10 AEs on that. Why wouldn't you do the same? Why wouldn't you treat those 10 AEs as potential partners that are going to like bring you business? You need to invest in them, give them content, build trust. Like those are all really basic things, but no one's thinking about it I don't want to say nobody. A lot of people aren't thinking about it in the same context as what works for these other disciplines. So yeah, I mean, I think in theory, it's simple. The hardest part for ISVs is like getting the buy-in to like put this in the CRM and make it happen. Like we at Invisory have a managed package that will help you with this for sure. But a lot of customers and partners have something that's already working. So it's just using what you have access to. And most importantly, making sure it fits in with what your company's doing. So this should not be a siloed situation that only you, the partner leader, has access to. Your sales team should see it, your marketing team should see it, and most importantly, your ELT should see it so they can see, the progress you're making, the relationships you're building, and how they're producing for your company.
Yeah, because done right, like these are going to be like repeat customers. So like you could even argue that like a single mature partnership is more valuable than a single mature contact because they
Absolutely.
have a single AE has multiple customers. A single SE has multiple AEs they support. A single RVP has a team of 4 or 5 AEs. An AVP has 4 RVPs. Like it just goes on and it like spiders out to first tens and then hundreds and then thousands of Salesforce customers that you can touch with a single unified marketing message.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I love it. So talk to me about Agentforce. Like how should ISVs be thinking about Agentforce right now?
So Agentforce is the hottest topic on the ecosystem. So much so that World Tours are now rebranded Agentforce World Tours, which is still hard for me to say. So, I think Agentforce, it came out Q4 last year, hot off the presses. Everybody was super excited about it, and they still are, for sure. I think what's happening now, though, is a lot of ISVs are taking a step back and saying, is this right for my business? The call for sales from Salesforce back in Q4 was lean in now, because you're going to be one of few and you're going to get a lot of support. And while that's not wrong, it doesn't mean it's for everybody. So I think how ISVs should be thinking about Agentforce right now is you don't need to solve all the world's problems. If you're going to build an agent, start very simply, very, very simply with one action or one job to be done, and then test it in the market, see how it does. I think the technology is changing. Like, I think daily is a fair statement. The way that Salesforce is using it is changing daily. And so I think what ISVs should be thinking about now is if you have the resources and you have a good pain point to solve for, get in the market, start small, and just be a part of this learning process. If it doesn't make sense with your current, package, or you don't have the resources or whatever, you need to have an AI story to stay relevant. Every Salesforce AE, SE is going to want to know how you're talking about AI. So for instance, one of the ISVs I'm working with right now, they're a very large ISV and they do have an agent on their roadmap, but it's not here yet. So how we're helping them with that is, okay, what's your overall AI narrative? And is there something that's happening with your package that can open up a new door or allow an opportunity for Salesforce AEs to sell Agentforce or to talk about it? Maybe it has something to do with Data Cloud. Data Cloud is the foundation for everything now. So is your ISV producing more data that agents can take action on? That might be a story. So, again, it's not a one size fit all. You have to have a narrative around it, even if it's not a specific agent. But I think the world is changing daily. And so to just ignore it is the biggest mistake. You got to pay attention. And if you can at least dip your toe in the water, you should.
Yeah. And I think a takeaway from that, as I'm like learning personally about Agentforce, is like, look before you leap, but like start going in that direction.
For sure.
Yeah. Curious, what are you working on now? What's Sam personally working on now?
Too many things. So we have Arcadia coming up, which is the conference we talked about. My husband and I also host a podcast called Friends with Benefits, which, it started as a partner go-to-market program. Podcast still is. But just like Arcadia, we've kind of expanded to like other friends that have a lot of benefits to offer. So We just had on a leading expert of consciousness, which was a fascinating episode. And actually, really, it all is intertwined. So, she was really talking about how we approach the world from a mindset perspective and how that can help us be better leaders. So we have our podcast, which we're insane. It launches weekly. So we've been doing that for 2 years. We also just launched a newsletter because we didn't have enough going on. And then we have Arcadia coming up, and there's some exciting news coming from Arcadia in the next month or so. So stay tuned on that. I'm not quite ready to launch, but stay tuned.
Love it. Last question before we move into the final three. What do you think every Salesforce ISV out there should do this month? We're coming up through May. This is start of Q1. No, start of Q2. Oh, geez, rusty. Start of Q2. What should every ISV be doing right now this week?
Well, to be transparent, I do think this was a rough Q1 for a lot of ISVs because within the ecosystem, because there's a lot of moving pieces in the Salesforce world right now, whether it's Agentforce, this was a huge go for growth. So a lot of account shuffle, a lot of team movement. We've introduced a lot of new personas. We now have Agentforce sellers. So there's a lot to learn in the ecosystem. So if you feel a little out of the loop, definitely lean in, take some trailheads, try to get up on that. But now is the time to hit the ground. Salesforce is back in action. They're ready to start selling. So if you have not yet done your target account list, you absolutely need to get that underway and then work with your PAM to figure out what's the best way to get in contact with these AEs and SEs, and then make a plan. Start with your messaging.
Question, because I'm actually learning about Agentforce, but probably other people are too. You mentioned about the Agentforce sellers being a new persona. Is that across the board? Are there AEs that are overlays or co-primes that are just responsible that the core AEs kind of bring in? And is it the same with SEs as well? So kind of a two-parter.
Yes, that is true. So there's a lot of changes. For instance, this is not what you asked, but one example is Marketing Cloud is becoming a core product. So there's so many things like that. And so if you had connections with AEs, SEs before, their role may have changed. So I would reach out to them and just ask, what's important to you now? What are you working on? How can I help you better or differently as a partner in your new role? But yes, Agentforce sellers kind of are an overlay over the whole ecosystem. There are still core AEs, co-primes, etc. But things are changing often. So like I said, just pay attention because it's not what it used to be.
Very good. Very good. But let's wrap up with the final three here, Sam. Rapid fire questions, 10-second answers. You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Sweet. Who is one person or company in the ecosystem that you track or follow?
Well, it was you, but then you disappeared for a year. Let's see. Who do I follow? I mean, this is a cop-out answer, but I do think that especially with everything coming on with Agentforce, Salesforce Ben has done a phenomenal job of keeping people informed as to what's coming up, what's new, what's happening. So as things are changing at such a rapid rate, I think they're doing a great job.
Nice. Yeah, he seems to be doing a really nice job overall too. Well, him and his team, the team's huge now. What would you tell yourself day one of working in the ecosystem?
Somebody did tell me this and I didn't know what it meant, but Yeva Roberts, my dear friend, she said, just do what you say you're going to do. And it really is that simple. And so when you reach out to an AE and you say you're going to follow up with a deck and you say you're going to do this, just do that. That's it. It's that simple. Be a good person to work with.
And you're already in the top 25% of interactions for that AE. If you just do that, if you just do what you say, and that goes in your personal life too. Love that. Lastly, what gives you energy in your personal life?
We just talked about this before we started recording, but I have 2 kids, so they're definitely up there. I have the best husband in the world, but here in Montana, the sun just came out and I'm about to start gardening, which is my absolute happy place. So I'm so looking forward to spending time there.
Any new fruits or vegetables you're trying out this year?
Honestly, I haven't gotten that far. I'm starting with my wildflowers, and I probably can't actually plant my garden until for another 15 days because it snowed 2 days ago. So we're not quite there.
But it is sunny. The sun is shining.
I'll take what I can get.
Absolutely. Sam, always a pleasure to talk to you, but absolute pleasure to have you as the first guest of the relaunch of the pod. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, Mike, the ecosystem is better now that you're back. So I'll speak for all of us. We're so happy to have you. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to today's episode of How We Got There. I hope you found something that you can try or a mistake to avoid at your ISV in the future. If you like what you heard and want to get notified of the next episode, please go over to Spotify or Apple or YouTube, follow, maybe even drop us a review. It would mean a lot. Take care.